Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to the Successful Marketing Summit Advanced All Access Pass. I'm here with Ryan Helms, teaching you everything you need to know about marketing with podcasts and podcasting in general. So, Ryan, I'm going to leave this over to you and take away. What are the best advices you have for marketing a podcast, and how would you do to conquer the world with your podcast? I'll leave it over to you and take it away.
Sure. So in the free version, we talked about, waiting to get A-level people on your podcast. And one of the reasons that it's also great to wait to get A-level people on your podcast is because they won't promote your podcast. So this is the cold, hard facts of the matter. People will not, these A-level people, 99 times out of 100 won't promote your podcast. So not only will you perfect your craft when you get these B and C level people on there, but you'll also have the opportunity to get people that will actually share your message. And that's what you want in the beginning when you're launching a podcast. You want to get it out there. You want to leverage what we call OPP, other people's platforms. So we've got, you can go to our website, legacypodcasting.com. I think I've got a blog post on this, but it's called OPP, other people's platform. And we want to use this to get your message in front of their audience. So there's a couple ways you can do that. One, you get them on your podcast. And the second thing, and this is the important part, after the interview's done, then you want to figure out like how do you get them to actually promote it? Because you want them to do more than just like write a one sentence Facebook post or something about it. So what we find works good is whichever platform you've been communicating with them on, whether that be like email, Facebook DM, Instagram DM, whatever it is, like send them a message and have a couple things in it, like thank them for being on the podcast, tell them that it's really important if your show grows that they will need to that they can help promote it to ensure that it grows. And the way to do that is when you type up your email, in it put a line that says, hey, to make this happen, I want to make your life a little bit easier. I've included some graphics. So then you include graphics that you made. Make sure they look like really professional. Like if you need to hire a graphic designer to create some templates for you that you can just update for each episode, you can do that. But include graphics. We usually include like an audiogram, Instagram stories, a square one that can just be used in the news feed, like a LinkedIn one. We try to include several ones so they kind of have an option for whatever platform they're most active on, they can post. So this kind of just, again, limits some friction because you get to put something out there that you created, you like it, right? It was designed by you and your team. It represents your podcast well, so they can just click download, add that to a Facebook post, put that out there. Super simple and easy. Another thing we also do is your podcast host, whatever company you choose, like I said, we recommend Simplecast, but they will give you a media player for each podcast episode, and they'll give you an embed code. So we always include that embed code in the email to the guest, right? When we're telling them, hey, your episode's live, here's some graphics, things like that. We put that embed code. It's an iframe code to be specific. We put that into the email and ask them like, hey, if you thought this episode was a great representation of you, your message, your company, then here's the iframe code you can put on your website. It'll be an awesome, beautiful embed player. When people hit your page, maybe it's your about me page, they can listen about your story, your journey, or whatever it is, wherever it fits well into their website. And then the great thing about that is if they do it, not only do they get to showcase their episode, but you get downloads from that. And actually on my personal podcast, I've got a ton of downloads from doing that, from people that get a lot of traffic on their sites that have put that embedded that there into their site. So that is one way that you can get your guests to help promote it, because that's when you're just starting out, if you don't have a big list, that's one of the things that you want, is you want people to promote it. So start with these B and C level people that are much more likely to promote your episode, and then minimize the friction to get them to promote it by giving them the graphics, the iframe code, etc. And we always schedule that email to go out. So we'll kind of write it beforehand, and we'll schedule it to go out early morning that the episode actually goes live. So when they click over, they would see the episode as well. So, and we also have a blog post that we use as well. This is kind of a little extra tip, and we link to that in the email as well. So then you can say like, hey, I hope, we've got a pretty high authority site. I hope, this backlink to your website gives you a little bit of juice. Again, it's all like this little reciprocity stuff. So hopefully they'll feel compelled to promote your episode. So that's one thing that you can do to really help kind of market your podcast. And then let's see, another thing that a lot of people miss is they don't understand what it means to market a podcast, and what you're actually trying to accomplish when you market a podcast, especially when you launch a podcast. And one of those things is 70 to 80% of your downloads on the podcast are going to come from Apple iTunes or Apple Podcasts, whichever you want to call it. So 70 to 80% of your downloads are coming from a platform. That means you should focus on that platform. So in this case, that platform is really the only one who has what I would call like an advanced algorithm that plays into the discoverability of a podcast. All the other ones, Spotify, I think Spotify will get better at this, but Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, all these, they highlight the top name people in podcasting, and they show you those like on the homepage. There's no really algorithm that shows you podcasts that are performing well, things like that. Apple has their new and noteworthy section, which leverages the algorithm to dynamically show podcasts in that section. They do that for each category. So it's not a deal breaker, but it's one of the things that we try to do with guests is it's getting them into that section so that we can try to get them some more organic exposure. And I think I said guests there, I mean clients. So when we're working with clients, we try to get them there so their podcasts get some more organic exposure to a larger audience, because people do go into Apple Podcasts, they look through the different sections. If they're looking for like a business podcast, they may click in there, see if there's any new cool business podcasts, and they'll want to see, they'll click on some of those in that section. There you go, new subscriber, new organic following. But to get there, you have to understand the process to get there, and it's to play into the Apple algorithm, and it considers a couple things. It considers ratings and reviews, it considers subscribers, and it considers total listen time. So those are kind of the three key metrics that it's going to consider, that you want to leverage to get more organic exposure, get in Apple's new and noteworthy, just get a high level or get a lift in search ranking for certain keywords. So you want to be going after certain keywords within your category. So if you can get those in like your title, in the episode titles, and the description of your podcast, things like that, that'll really help. And then once you start getting these ratings, reviews, these subscribers, this listen time, you'll start to rank higher for those keywords. So like, for example, like my podcast, the main keyword that I target is side hustle. So I think I'm within the top 10. There's tons of podcasts out there that use the word side hustle, that have the word side hustle. Some of them are huge. I think I'm in the top 10 in most searches for side hustle. I'm in, if you search like financial independence, you'll find my podcast as well, at least in the top 20. So these are some keywords that I target in my episode titles, in my title of my podcast, and the description, stuff like that. So understanding that you can go after these keywords, but you still need to play into the algorithm. So to get these ratings, reviews, subscribes, and listen time to kind of lift that up. So that's something you need to focus on with your podcast when you're launching your podcast is those three metrics, so that you can get some more discoverability. Because if you don't have a big audience, that's really important, is to get that organic following. And it'll be a long and slow process, but you'll slowly see your metrics start to go up in your podcast host. You'll see this month you had this many more subscribers than the previous month, and so on. But you got to keep playing in. You got to kind of play the system, focus on these keywords, create content around these keywords, and try to find ways to increase your listen time, ratings and reviews, and subscribers. So those are some things that you can do from a marketing standpoint that will really help out your podcast. So what do you think, Matt?
I think it's amazing content. I mean, you have like, I've been scribbling down on my notepad here, lots of things, and it's really like good quality advices that can bring you so far. I see just the thing where you talk about digging into the keywords in both the titles and the descriptions. It's, yeah, I mean, that goes for pretty much all content that you create. If you can connect keywords into what you're producing, it's awesome. But this, I didn't really know exactly how to do this with a podcasting. I'm still a podcasting newbie myself. So then, like, what could you do outside of? Are there any like marketing platforms that you suggest people look into extra when it comes to
Yeah, I mean,
marketing?
it depends on if you want to spend money or not, though. So, I mean, there's a platform called Overcast. They have a app, right? It's a podcast listening app, but they also have a native ad platform. So you can go to overcast.fm/ads and you can check that out. And that's some like paid advertising that you can do. There's not really like any marketing platforms that are going to be worth your time. Like there's some out there that like, oh, you do this and I don't know, maybe you get one more extra subscriber, but a lot of it's just hype, to be honest, and it doesn't work. So the long way is the way in the case of podcasting. You put in the work, you're in it for the long term, but you do some things that are smart, like I mentioned, like focus on keywords, try to hack the algorithm to get some organic exposure, things like that. And then if you have the spare cash laying around, you can invest in things like Overcast ads or Facebook ads directly. Like if you get some big name people on your podcast, like earlier I was mentioning like Gary Vee or people like that, like if you landed a person like that on your podcast, that you should run some paid ads to that podcast as well. So that's something you can do: Facebook ads, Instagram ads, story ads, things like that. But again, it costs money, and at that point your podcast probably isn't making any money. So just something to consider, and you have to look at your budget. But it's a long game. Podcast is most definitely a long game. There's no magic pill or anything like that. Just know that it's going to take a lot of work, and that it'll pay off in the end. You'll make some amazing relationships, and that can totally change your life, change your business, etc.
You mentioned in the free interview about revenue streams, and you said that the most important one would actually be to make revenue from your own stuff. Could you just elaborate on that and what you mean? How would you do that?
Yeah, so you could have a freebie. For example, for us, here's a plug: Ultimate Guide to Podcasting, legacypodcasting.com/ultimate-guide. So something like that, right? You call it out in your podcast when you're talking, like you could reference it. It could be your intro, it can be in core content, it can be in the outro. And for us, that's a lead magnet into our world, right? We created this awesome product. It's 175 pages long. Somebody comes into there, it promotes our 21-day challenge. So that's the next step in our value ladder. From there, they're going to go through the challenge, get exposure to us, one-on-one interaction to us. They may realize that it's too much work for them. They don't want to do it. So they may hire us to launch their podcast, or they may go through the challenge and realize, oh, it's too much work for us. I'll hire them to do it on a monthly basis. So that's kind of like the entryway to our value ladder. So that's one thing that I recommend you doing as well. It's like, once you define what your value ladder is, like weave that very kind of either low ticket or free item into your value ladder, into your podcast, whether that be your intro, you reference it in the content, or into the outro. So because like I said earlier in the free session, promoting your stuff will always put more money in your pocket because you're not splitting it with anyone, except maybe your wife or something, but different story. But be your own sponsor, promote your own stuff. If you have like paid services or something like that are in line, or you're throwing an event or something like that is in line with the content, you can promote that stuff as well in your intro and stuff like that. Just keep it short and sweet. Don't be too pushy. Don't be too salesy in the podcast, because if people want to take action, they will. You can put links to your whatever these things are in the show notes of the podcasts, because people can scroll down, see those links, click on them, get into your world. Or what happens most of the time is people just remember this stuff. Like if they're driving in their car, they'll really like your episode. When they get to their computer, they'll go to whatever it is, www.blank, and they'll find whatever it is that you talked about on your episode. So it's a branding play as well, right? People start to hear your voice, remember you, etc. But being your own sponsor will always put more money in your pocket, and it's best to start with a very enticing freebie to kind of pull people off the platform and kind of gain an asset, like which is an email address or messenger bot subscriber or something like that.
Awesome. I mean, just saying that the ultimate guide that you're talking about, it's amazing content. So if you haven't already downloaded it, it's in the free section, and you can also download it from the bottom on the page. It's, I'd say, Podcasting 101 by Ryan Helms and the Legacy Podcasting.
Yeah.
So Ryan, thank you so much. These are killer advices from you guys. So where could people go if they want to know more, get in touch with you to perhaps start their own podcast and become famous all over the world?
Yeah. So you can just add me on Facebook. Just search Ryan Helms, HELMS. You'll see a picture with like a lime green background. That's me. You can add me on there. You could just go to legacypodcasting.com. You'll see links to like book a call or something like that if you think you're a good fit for us. You'll also see other content on there as well. We've got case studies if you're in the B2B space. We've got the ultimate guide if you're just starting out and want to do it yourself. So yeah, click around in there, see if anything jumps to mind. If you like what you see, check out some of the testimonials and stuff like that. And happy to work with you guys if we think it's a good fit.
Awesome. Ryan, thank you so much for being part of the Successful Marketing Summit.
Sure.
And I wish you all the best. Nice to talk to you, hear from you in the future.
Yep. Likewise, Matt. Peace.
Bye.